It's the Center Fantasy Football Podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal! Yes! Yes! Yes, this is my favorite part of the game.
Analyzing all of the league matchups week to week.
You can't win!
Get him a body bag! Finish him!
It is a bit above average.
I said this sucks, and basically so do you.
And discussing the boom, bust, and hidden gem players throughout the league.
We ain't found shit!
What the hell is Brett Favre doing here?
I'm in town to play the Dolphins, you dumbass.
Dan Marino should die of gonorrhea and rot in hell. Laces out.
Touchdown!
And here's your host,
Allow myself to introduce myself.
David Harbatkin. Ni hao and welcome to the Center Fantasy Football Podcast for Wildcard Week of Season 7. Joining us on the program, sort of, is the commissioner of the league and coach of the Hackettstown Anglers. Please welcome the return of Emo Geese.
What the fuck is an emo anyway? Nobody's ever explained what that is.
It's like somebody. It's like emotionless. Like the world is. You know. I could Google it.
So emo stands for emotionless?
I think so, or something. I don't know what it actually stands for. Let's see. Emo. I mean, they usually.
I would go with disgusted geese or disinterested geese. I don't know if emo applies.
Well, okay. Emo, a style of rock music resembling punk, but having more complex arrangements and lyrics that deal with more emotional subjects. What does it mean when a person is emo? A person who is overly sensitive and full of angst or adopts a certain style characterized by dyed black hair, tight t-shirts, and jeans.
Okay, I think we're off on all of them.
You are a person who is overly sensitive sometimes.
I don't give a rat's ass about anything most of the time. I could not disagree more.
Okay, well, you certainly are returning to that point now. Oh yes, and the other person on the program, the coach of Hackettstown's finest, Mr. Manny Friedwin. Welcome to the show.
Yeah.
Did you have a good? Did you have a good Thanksgiving?
Well, I was still in first place on Thanksgiving, so after Thanksgiving is when I was struggling.
But you did get your slice of humble pie though with your turkey though, right?
It was more after the Nick and Jamie loss, but yeah, it's going to go back up after the bye week though. So
okay, so how confidence returns. All right, well, it was an exciting end to the season, certainly.
There was.
So I don't know, where do we begin?
I don't know. We begin.
Well, I mean, we could begin let's begin in an actual, this game blows my mind, because I checked this out, like, the day after, and I was like, wait a minute, who won? let's go to the Tillett versus the Monkeys game.
So pathetic.
So, Tillett Trey ends up winning this game 96.14 to 95.52. I don't know where that came from. Now, obviously, full confession, I didn't watch any of these games. I don't know. I only watched the scores throughout, like as much as I could. But it was, the games were on at 2 a.m. where I was, and there was no bars or anything else. So, or no sports bars. So, but I saw the score of this, and it just looked pretty obvious that the Monkeys were going to win. The projection was well in hand. And then, yeah, somehow Tillett won. What does anybody know what happened here?
Well, Tom Brady helped him out in the Sunday night game, and
31 points for Tom Brady. Yeah,
Kansas City defense went nuts. against Oakland.
Oh wow, that I guess that happened too.
I don't know if anybody was paying attention to the Minnesota game, but at one point Dalvin Cook was actually leading. He brought them to the lead 97-96, and then somehow miraculously fumbled his way back into the deficit and then managed to injure his shoulder and not return. Now, this kind of fucking horseshit nonsense. I mean, 1 in a billion. 1 in a fucking billion. The guy has the fucking lead. The game's over. He fumbles his way back to you. The game's back in your hands, and conveniently out for the game. I haven't seen this since Chris Carson.
Unreal.
I know. On a game, by the way, that Tillett sat. Well, it didn't sat. He played Julio Jones, who was out, and Chase Edmonds, who was out.
Yeah.
And this is a bunch of nonsense. I've never seen so much fucking horseshit occur on fucking Sunday.
Well, and on top of that, well, I mean, congratulations. You won the Alexander Madison lottery.
Yeah.
The musical chair stopped
I
on
won
you.
the day late and $1 short.
Congratulations, you have a bye in the consolation bracket.
Yeah, thanks. Is that what I earned?
Apparently. Yeah, I mean, so when I finally looked at this, because, we'd said, oh, wow, Nick and Jamie got to the playoffs and everything else that everybody was posting. And then I looked back and I was like, wait a minute, Tillett won. Does that mean that he makes the playoffs? So that was that. I didn't even calculate this in there, but he didn't, only because of the virtue of the points. Because I think Nick and Jamie had a 5-point lead going to the game, and they beat him by like 30 now. But yeah, I mean, how many games is Tillett going to be just within a point? I mean, this time it didn't involve Amari Cooper, but I mean, he said he likes exciting games.
Yeah, he certainly got one here.
I know, like.
Too bad he didn't have enough points to surpass Nick and Jamie.
I know, but I mean, could you imagine if this was actually the game for the playoffs? It came close to it. I mean, had Nick and Jamie lost, this would have been the game. I mean, yeah. Could you imagine what he would be thinking if the fumble gets him in there? I mean,
yeah, to have the lead and then to fumble it away, that is unreal. I mean, you can't make this shit up.
After he fumbles it away, like, I mean, how many times do you see that happen in a lifetime?
Oh my God!
The Monkeys played James White with 37 points in his bench. That was part of his running back triple-headed. Why play him? Why not just keep 37 points in the bench? His bench outscored his starting roster.
I mean, they did.
Oh my God!
With a zero, Renfro. He still outscored his starting roster.
23 from Anthony Miller. I mean, he had some good pickups there towards the end of the season. He just didn't do anything right. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, Goddard got 12.6, but A. Brown, I don't know. That was the other thing. He went on a spending spree right towards the end of the season where he just dumped out his wallet. And spent like $50 and $60 a player. So, I mean, and who did he pick? And that's the thing. So he picked up Conley, who only got 9.7. A. Brown from Tennessee, who got 7.5. Sat Marvin Jones with 13 points. Yeah, you're right. James White with 37 and Anthony Miller with 23. He sat. And he played Jameis Winston, who got 10, and then Matt Ryan. So, I don't know. I feel like this has been an interesting monkey season. First of all, he took over 2 weeks in. He just,
I mean,
I don't know.
Honestly, I mean, Tillett trade didn't really deserve the win. I mean, they got super lucky with the Dalvin Cook fumble, but, to have 2 players with 0 points
I know.
and to still win the game, I mean, come on,
Yeah.
And be losing the game and have the opponent fumble the game back to you and magically get injured after the fumble.
It's just, yeah.
You just bracket this under total fucking nonsense.
You bracket this under the consolation bracket is what you do.
Yeah.
Well, Tillett, I'm glad you can join me in the shitter.
So any since this is probably going to be the last time that we mention these two teams until 2020, anything any eulogy for these two teams? I mean, Tillett just, I don't know what happened in the last, what is this, 5? I mean, so he broke the losing streak, but on a fumble. I mean, he was trying to back his way in there like the Hagglers. Like, just how many times can I lose? So many teams were so close to just pulling off like the losing November.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, where did they go wrong? I think they went wrong, honestly, at the David Johnson injury, if you look back. Because they just didn't have the RB2 to make up for it. I mean, McLaurin was hot at the beginning of the season, and then just not, and that kind of hurt him. I mean, Clam Crowder was up and down.
David Johnson is either amazing or he's an absolute disappointment. It's a crapshoot with him. But lately, he's been more of a disappointment.
Well, he hasn't been playing, has he?
Yeah, very injury prone. That's another thing. So,
I mean, but how would you sum up Tillett's season this year?
I don't know.
I don't know either. I feel like a couple of interesting games of note, but overall, meh season. I mean, and for the Monkeys, I feel like just a tremendous amount of lost potential. Like, you look at what he, I mean, he was in there. I mean, both of these teams were in there, really, until the end. But just, I don't know. He pulled him back from 0-2 to give him, I mean, how many wins at the end? 4, so... I mean, 0-0. Or, 0-2. He got 4 wins, out of the rest of the games. I mean, for the first season and taking over, I think that he did reasonably well. I mean, 11th place, but still. He avoided a 12th place Millennials season to climb his way up to 11th.
Well, with Tillett Trey, another thing which screwed him over is that he started the year with Antonio Brown.
Yeah, that's true. That was another, absolutely. I mean, that was something that really bit him.
Yeah, so during the time of the draft, we had we all thought he would be playing, I think, with the Raiders at that point. And then,
Yeah, we did, because there was the first week, whether or not he would play with them, and then he went to New England. Yeah.
Exactly. And then he played in week 2, and then in week 3, he was a no-go. So that hurt him.
Yeah, there's a lot that did. I don't know. I mean, he was in a ton of close... He's always in a ton of close games. I mean, that franchise amazes me. They're exciting to watch. I mean, I think they are one of the most exciting teams that plays, but he's on a razor's edge all the time. I mean, and this isn't the first time that he's actually tied the record of the team that ended up making the playoffs and then just didn't get in on points. I think this is definitely the second time that that's happened. This might be the third. It's an exciting team to watch.
Yeah.
Ultimately,
Yeah. Just not good enough.
I love how I'm trying to be nice about it, and you're like, yeah, just not good enough.
Yeah.
He just tells it like it is.
Yeah.
All right.
Goodbye in the consolation bracket, so good time.
Yeah.
All right, so where would we like to go next? I mean, we could go to the Whalers game, which ended up being a little bit more interesting than I thought. Wow, what happened here? I just assumed he won that outright. So the Whalers wins 127.2 to 123.70 over the Lightning Rods. Carson Wentz, he ended up going with Carson Wentz, who got 31 points, but Deshaun Watson had 34 on his bench, so, but, I mean, it's not a bad play. I mean, it could show you that he's thinking the whole time because, you had Houston against New England, and it's a smart play, but it ultimately didn't matter. I mean, it cost him 3 points, but that 3 points wouldn't have made a difference. He needed, 30. What was it? How many points would he have needed? 25, right?
He would have needed, 25 to get the bye, correct.
25 more than you, right? So, right. I mean, and that was not, and that pretty much was no longer in question somewhere in there. I don't know. Definitely, I don't. By late Sunday, I guess. I don't
know. So going into the Monday night game, he needed.
Oh yeah, he needed Lockett to get a bunch.
He needed Lockett to get 29 points. If he got 29 points, he would have had the bye. And he got a goose egg.
Wow, look at that. Okay.
So that made me extremely happy.
He goes 0 for 0 on 3 targets. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It made me very nervous. Seattle at home, plus putting up 37 points. I mean, and they have a very high-powered offense, and Minnesota's defense is not that good. Mm-hmm. So I was like, this is a distinct possibility he could get that,
Yeah, but clearly not. So Michael Thomas only 10.8 points, 22 from Robinson. What has this guy been doing? My God,
Robinson,
25 and 22. I mean, granted, they were against the Giants and Detroit. We'll see how he does against Dallas, Green Bay, and KC. Mixon it back up to 17. I mean, this guy, he had one. So he had since week 8. Week 8 he had 17. Then he had a bye. Then 17. Then 17. Then he had a slump against Pittsburgh, and then back to 17. This guy's been money for 17 lately. I don't know what's happening there. Because he had an atrocious start of the season, and now he's suddenly reappeared. Melvin Gordon with 13. Ertz with only 5.4. He got beaten out by Goddard. And then 18 for the defense, for the Rams defense. Singletary with 19.10 points. I mean, on Thanksgiving, he hasn't been as consistent, but that's the second week in a row that he's had double digits. For the Lightning Rods, 21 for Wilson, 21 for Edelman. Robbie Anderson with 17. Elliott with 20. Elliott's been kind of I feel like he hasn't been, but I feel like he's been a disappointment. He's been in double digits almost every week except for that 1 week against Minnesota. He just hasn't hasn't owned the league like we, he might have in the past. But he got him at a discount, so that's still pretty good.
Yeah, nothing spectacular, but he puts up between 15 and 20 most weeks.
Philip Lindsay 9.2. Hollister got beaten by American Eagle. 10.4 points, 7.5 from Cohen. Oh, Tariq Cohen finally came down to earth. Looky here. That guy. He was another slut of the league. 10 from Butker and 5 from the Chicago defense. Also, kind of lost its luster. So,
bench blunders. Robert Woods. Why the hell wouldn't you start a Rams receiver against the Cardinals? Come on, Lightning Rods.
And he also had the quarterback, too.
Yeah. Right, you could have gotten 2 first with that, with Goff and Woods.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson, I guess you have to play him, but...
yeah. I'm not playing Goff. Goff hadn't thrown a touchdown in all of November up until that point. And that game wasn't even in November. That was in December. So he didn't throw a touchdown in all of November.
Yeah. That's true. That's true, but it's against Arizona.
No, I agree.
Secondary is just garbage, so...
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know.
But he had options. Edelman, you were going to sit Edelman. I probably would have sat Robbie Anderson, but he ends up doing well anyway.
This game was a landslide, but the fact that Lockett had 0 and Wilson, he had Wilson and Hollister going, that made it close, just not close enough.
He tried to give lightning rods a chance. He made it look closer than it actually was.
Yeah, it wasn't that close.
No, I didn't there was never a sense that I felt like Whalers was in any danger of losing this.
Right.
And he wasn't, but I guess he made it. Yeah, he did on Monday. Well, yeah. Wilson made it closer, at least in score.
Yeah.
I mean, theoretically, had Wilson thrown another touchdown, he could have lost.
Yeah.
Although nothing would have changed with that loss. I
No.
don't think.
The first 3 seeds would still be the same.
The first 3 seeds would be the same, but actually he would have made the playoffs. The Lightning Rods would have made the playoffs.
At 5 and 8?
Oh no, they wouldn't have. Sorry.
No.
You're right. So nothing would have changed. This game was completely irrelevant in the grand scheme.
Yeah, the only thing that was relevant was the Whalers' point total.
No, it could have been relevant. I'm not saying that
Right, but that was the only thing that was worth watching in the Monday night game. Who won had made no difference. Well, if the Lightning Rats would have won, he would have got the bye, even if he scored a gazillion more points than
Right. No, I'm just saying it could. I mean, look, if the Lightning Rods would have won, because then they would have been 5 and they would have needed Nick and Jamie to lose. But that didn't happen. Until at Trey, they would have needed them to lose also, but also that didn't happen. So the Lightning Rods lost this the week before, and then the Whalers, they needed the point total, but once they didn't get it, I'm talking about the results, essentially made this game somewhat moot in the grand scheme of things. Because had the Whalers lost, it wouldn't have mattered. He still had way more points than the Blues, and so he would have ended up exactly where he did. So yeah, sum up the Lightning Rod season. I don't know, Deez, you're his biggest fan. What do you have to say about that?
Well, his 1-point bullshit win ultimately took me down.
That's true.
So, well played, Lightning Rod. But at least I get the bye in the first round of the consolation bracket.
Right, you do, yes.
So the Lightning Rods that definitely gets the award for being the cheapest team in the league, and I'm looking at their week 1 roster, and there are very few changes, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Or very few notable changes. It seems like
they rarely spend money. I mean, they spent money one of the weeks. I mean, they also, if you look at their bench, they have 3 bench spots open. Or 2. I don't know. I mean, they always felt... So here's the thing. They always had a point... They were just sitting there for the latter half of the season, on a massive points. And... they needed a couple of wins. They just needed to keep pace with the teams at the bottom, because they had the tiebreaker with way more points than any of them, and they ended up finishing with 16-16, which honestly is more than every team up until the Whalers, even past the Blues. So literally all they had to do was attain a 6-7 record. But 4-9, that's just too tall an ask.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, he did start the year with Evan Ingram, who was good initially.
Yeah. I mean, the Chicago Bears was lighting it up early.
That's true. It's true, and they really fell off.
And you just felt like every week that you'd play them that this was a team that could beat you.
Yeah, I felt like he started the year stronger than ended the year. I don't think he ended the year very well.
Yeah, I mean, and that's true. But
yeah,
ultimately, I don't know. You gonna sum it up, Booger, with an extra dig in there?
I give it a C+.
And yeah, I don't know what to say. And obviously for the Whalers, there's nothing to sum up there. He's gonna be playing this week and probably the week after, but we'll talk about that in a bit. So, any other games that we could just, I don't know. Well, geez. Do you want to go now or do you want to wait?
Why would I wait? Let's just get this shit over with.
So this was actually an exciting game. But the champ was here.
Champ also taking somebody with him.
Yep, Dave's secret crush. Crushing the dreams of the south side of Hackettstown. You're on the south side, right?
Oh,
yeah. 105.54 to 99.06. Yeah. I mean, well, this came down to the Monday night game. I mean, there's so many like little storylines. I mean, you could talk about it yourself, but I mean, I was like looking at it. You know, you could talk about the earlier aspect of the game, but certainly towards the end of the, you know, when it went into the Monday night, he only needed a minuscule amount of points from Kirk Cousins. I think what was it? 15 or something like that.
Yeah.
And ironically, Kirk Cousins had been the quarterback on my bench that in the championship game that had I played him, I would have won the championship a couple of years ago. And I even wrote to you like, oh, you need a Nick Foles like Monday night performance from Kirk Cousins, ironically the guy who sat for Nick Foles, and you were getting it up until the fourth quarter. I mean, and I was on the phone with Dr. Hockey, and we were like, is this the luckiest motherfucker you've ever seen? And we were just talking about like, I don't think I want to see this guy in the playoffs. I've never seen anybody that lucky. And then suddenly, that
60-yard touchdown where no one was covering. Was it Diggs?
I have no idea. I don't even know what happened. I know there was a touchdown. That's all I know. There was a
yeah,
touchdown.
He was wide open. It was like there was no one within like 30 yards of him. And it felt like just Seattle just kind of let the touchdown go. I don't know.
Well, I know that the score had increased. Like I think it went to 34 points for Seattle, and then that's when I said, well, maybe they'll. You know, that's when a lot of garbage time points kind of come in, and it did. I mean, like I'll leave it to you to because you guys watched the game. I have no idea, but.
Well, I mean, for the Hagglers in Thanksgiving, I mean, Will Lutz did his job. 17 points from the kicker.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought you were sitting pretty going into the Sunday games. And actually, the 1 o'clock games you did pretty well. Devontae Adams had a good performance. Where you really lost this game was at the 4 o'clock games when they hit with Eckler, Drake, Hunter Henry, Tyreek Hill, I mean, and the Chargers defense. That's where you underperformed, and I
don't think he underperformed on Eckler. I think he underperformed on Sam Darnold.
Yeah. Yeah, Sam Darnold against Cincinnati, that was atrocious, but I mean, you would think that Drake, Henry, and Tyreek Hill could score more than 20 points combined.
Yeah, Henry is a disappointment in that game, and Drake is too.
Yeah, and Tyreek Hill as well. I mean, they have Mahomes again.
Yeah, and it's against Oakland. I mean,
yeah,
and the Godwin and Evans combo ended up with only 18 points total, 9 for Godwin and 9.3 from Evans.
And this is when, I mean, we were on the phone and, Tampa Bay was going for it on, 4th and, 15, in the second half when they were already up 25-0.
Yeah.
I mean, they just run up the score.
And there's Amari Cooper beating Gallup. So he won that battle on Thanksgiving Day.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, as far as, bench blunders, you don't really have any. I mean, Eugene had some, but it doesn't matter. Cortland Sutton with 23, Chris Carson with 17, Witten with 18. I mean, he had a bunch of points just sitting there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Well, geez.
So Madison ends up on the
Yeah.
hot seat to
And he
end the
ends up
year.
and he ends up ineligible for the playoffs because
Yeah.
quick reminder to anybody left in championship contention now the Riddick rule comes in, so even if you see them available, if they're dropped by a team lower than a team that's been eliminated, you can no longer pick them up, and if you do pick them up and somebody catches you, they will automatically be discarded from your team. So don't even bother. Geez.
That's it. I mean, I don't have anything else to say. I was disgusted with the team's performance once again. A lot of high-priced players on this team, overpriced, quote-unquote superstars. Don't. What are you going to do when your team doesn't want to win? What's the classic saying? Teams that want to win don't play like this. Just doesn't want to. There's no other way to sum it up. Fucking Tyreek Hill, speedster. Every time you give him the ball, he gets 15 yards. He turns a 5-yard gain into 14. But why would he get the ball? Why would we give it to him? Why bother? First of all, the Chargers are pathetic. Okay? Rivers needs to be benched for Tyrod Taylor immediately. They need a Lamar Jackson on that team. Rivers just stands there until the pocket collapses on him and he gets smeared. Or he throws an interception if I'm lucky. He sucks.
I mean, he threw like 2 interceptions on screen passes. That's when you know you're washed up.
He throw a fucking screen pass. The 0-11 Bengals.
And that's who you started off with, but go ahead. That's your starting QB of the year.
0-11 Bengals. The laughing stock of the league look like Super Bowl champions. They look like the 49ers.
I could have told you that. They brought Andy Dalton back. Come on, the Red Rocket.
Dalton to Boyd look like Montana to Rice against this horrid Jets team. Dalton just got sacked. I mean, I don't know what these guys' problems are. I don't know. Devontae Adams was excellent. So the Le'Veon Bell haters, that was the other half of the trade. You can shut up. Because he put up amazing numbers for the last time. He did his job.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean,
Le'Veon
Bell is playing in the playoffs, but yeah.
Another half of this collapse, this stink bomb that has turned into the Anglers, was the horrid Arizona Cardinals team that got smeared by the Rams. What was it, 34-8? Kyler Murray, we went this offensive. He snaps the ball, pretends to throw to somebody, doesn't find anybody open,
tiptoes out of bounds.
Field, literally cutting off the other half of the field, and then runs out of bounds. We call it pulling a Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
Like, this Cardinals team has absolutely stunk up the building. They've ruined Larry Fitzgerald. They've ruined Kenyon Drake. They've even ruined Christian Kirk. I mean, at one point, we thought we had a gold mine. This team is a fucking outhouse. This is horrendous. I don't even know what to say anymore. Michael Gallup was a fucking lemon that I bought from the Hackettstown's finest. Oh, Michael Gallup, he's really good. I'll throw him in for free. I should have realized that was I'll just throw him in for free.
Yeah, there's no such thing as a free lunch or a free receiver.
He sucks.
Yeah, I definitely got you with that one with the Michael Gallup.
I mean, ironically, I lost to a team that has Hawkinson, my week one $60 tight end.
Who ended up with 7.8 points and then went on
IR. $60 man.
That 7 points was the difference in the loss.
It is. I know. Had you had Hawkinson instead of Henry,
yeah, but let's not forget Big Hunter Henry. He's a big-time tight end. Now when you have fucking Scarecrow throwing to you. And what's going to suck about watching football from now on is next week Tyreek Hill will get a 90-yard touchdown pass in the first play of the game. Like, these guys, I mean, I'm glad. I'm not going to – I'm just done. I'm already in training camp for next season. If anybody wants to talk about next August, who we're thinking about, that's fine, but I'm done with this season.
But, I mean, what lessons do you feel you've learned? Because I felt First of all, everybody that you've spread the wealth around the league. I mean, my God, how many ex-Hagglers players just from this year are going to be in the playoffs? I mean, it's insanity. How many guys went through Hackettstown this year? I mean,
yeah, I'm looking at the Week 1 roster: Michael Thomas, DeAndre Hopkins,
I know.
Julian Edelman.
Where's the thing? How many moves did you make? I mean, because you're always
D.D. Westbrook was on your team Week 1. LaShawn McCoy, Marvin Jones Jr., Emmanuel Sanders. I mean, I'm just thinking if you kept your team as is, you're probably in the playoffs.
You know what? You can't look at it that way.
I mean, your quarterbacks were trash. Trubisky and Phillip Rivers were your starting 2 quarterbacks, but otherwise, I mean, your running backs, okay, yeah, Tariq Cohen, Frank Gore, LaShawn McCoy, yeah, you needed running back help, but your receivers were insane to start the year.
Well, you made, just for the record, you made 62 moves, which is second in the league. The 1603ers have made 64 moves. The next closest after that is in the 40s. It would be 46 by Hackettstown's finest. So it drops off so yes. I mean, but that's traditional Hagglers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Do you think you maybe would be more patient next year or no?
No, I don't care. The only thing that we have to take with us is that we're still, because of this, undefeated in the
playoffs.
And I will take that to the grave.
I mean, there has never been a loss in Hackettstown playoff history until 2 weeks from now. But,
well, honestly, 1 championship is better than 5 playoff appearances. So
I agree.
Yeah.
Or 7 playoff appearances. Trust me.
Yeah, just ask Eli Manning.
This is the price you pay to be undefeated in the playoffs. There are seasons where you're not going to make it to the playoffs. Unfortunately, that is the price you pay to tout that glorious record.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think there was tremendous potential there. I think you maybe made 1 too many moves. That's all. I think a little more patience might help the Hagglers. Yeah. I don't think you'll ever be that patient. I know that's not you. That's not your style, but I don't know. But I was also, look, one of the things that I did say to Dr. Hockey, I mean, because you almost ended up pulling this off. You almost ended up pulling it off and getting into the playoffs. And one of the things I said to Dr. Hockey when I was on the phone with him, and the reason why I was quite afraid of you making the playoffs even, I mean, there was like one point where I was like, oh my God, because I thought that you were going to make it in that fourth quarter. And I was like, oh my God. Was that because most teams have some loyalty to their players, like they actually play them. Whereas the Hacklers, when they get, especially to playoff time, they play like daily fantasy. They will throw anybody in the garbage, which makes them so dangerous because most teams are just like, but I got this guy. I mean, he's so good. I mean, granted, he's got this terrible matchup, but he's so good, I got to play him. And then you do play him, and then he doesn't score the points because of the matchup. Whereas the Hagglers, when they go into playoff mode, they only look at it purely from a matchup standpoint. And that's what makes them so dangerous in the playoffs, because they're playing daily fantasy. The problem is that it's very difficult to play daily fantasy throughout the season. It just is very difficult.
It is.
To sustain it. So, I don't know.
Well, we're going to be lethal in the consolation bracket, so.
I'm sure you will be. I mean, your competition there is not anything to, I don't know.
If you can hear me, lightning rods, I'm coming for you. You think you've escaped just because we're in the loser bracket? You're wrong. I will make you my cause.
Yeah. I think one thing which really hurt Gaza in this league is the Drew Brees injury. because I don't think you would have ever traded Michael Thomas if Drew Brees stayed.
I probably would have the following week anyway. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. I don't know. I actually don't think that you might have traded him either, but maybe not that week, but you would have. Come on, there's nobody. Look at his team. There's nobody that he wouldn't have traded away.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, it's like a 3-year-old child. Like, what? We're not doing good. All right, next. Next.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, maybe a little bit more discipline throughout the season, and then go hog wild in the playoffs. Whatever. It's worked before. I don't know. I mean, but you came within a game.
Yeah, that's true.
And
it's not like you were as far away as Zamunda.
Or the Monkeys of the Lightning Rods or Dave's Secret Crush.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, you're the only 5-8 team this year, Geese. That's something to hang your hat on. The only one to attain that record.
Yep.
We joked about whether or not a 5-8 team would make it to the playoffs. Now we know the answer. No.
No.
All right. Good season.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the Crush. The champ was here. Yeah, he actually got very unlucky throughout the season. I mean, if you look at his point totals, 1579, still more than Lombardi. Still more than the Panthers. Still more than Nick and Jamie. Still more than Tillett Trey. Still more than the Hagler. So they finished in 10th, but they had more points than anybody below 3, except for the Lightning Rods. So that trial really hurt him, I guess. I don't know. He was able to put up points. He just
had tough matchups, but I think what really hurt him was the Tampa Bay receiver conundrum.
Yeah, I mean that's obviously the problem with this season was that it would 1 week it would be one week it would be the next. Eventually, you're just like, I'll play them both, and then they just they both started.
And then they both sucked. Yeah, so like the first 5 weeks, I think he played the wrong Tampa Bay receiver each time.
Yeah.
Because Godwin was way better than Evans, but
and then the 1 week that he finally put in Evans did really well. Or what do you call? Or he sat Evans. That was the week that Evans did well, and then he brought back Evans, and I think he beat me.
And then whenever David Montgomery did well, he was on his bench, and then if he didn't do well, he would try to trade him.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it was just the most ironic losses one after another.
Yeah.
That's the curse of the
I mean,
championship.
he actually has 2 pretty good running backs. Jacobs and Carson were both pretty good. There's too many receivers to choose from. I mean, even Cortland Sutton was really good.
Yeah, I think he also really held. I mean, I remember in talking to him, he held back on the draft and spending some money until the end, and then it was like,
I honestly feel that he had his players were good, but his lack of success was due to poor coaching.
Of course, you would say that, Booger. I mean, maybe, but I think it really had to do with. Those receivers, and I think it just had to do with bad luck. I mean, what was that time, Geese, that you said that he would lose in the most ironic fashion? Or I said that, and then you gave the ironic scenario, and that's what happened. I mean, this. Yep. I think you could chalk this up to the curse of the championship. I mean, nobody. Not only has a champion not won more than one. They've certainly not won the year after. I mean, there's been no back-to-backs. I mean, and that won't happen again this year. I mean, I don't know. But to have that point total and then to just not, I mean, what does the Blues say to him? He should, I mean, Lombardi should be sitting there bragging all the time in the office being like, ha, you're not in the playoffs anymore, because I'm sure he had to hear shit last year. But then Eugene can just turn around and go, yeah, well, I got more points than you.
Well,
And then he'll just
if
turn around and
Whalers
it Electoral
knocks out
College.
Nick and Jamie, and if Whalers knocks out Nick and Jamie and Blues beats hockey, it would be a guaranteed first-time champion.
Yes, which has happened. Yeah, I mean, it'll be guaranteed, but I mean, yeah. So there's only 2 teams left that have an opportunity to have a repeat. So it's those 2. It's Wakanda and it's Nick and Jamie. So, all right. So let's move on to that. Well, let's move on to the Wakanda Blues game. The preview of the rematch and then the preview for next week. So Wakanda wins 117.16 to 78.90. So, this was if Wakanda won, they were in. If they lost, suddenly it becomes a much different story, but they ended up winning. I mean, it's not even that impressive a win. It's just that poor a loss by the Blues. I mean, look at these numbers. God. So, all right. Well, for Wakanda, 13 for Breeze, 18.5 for Cup. So Cup finally made a return. 8.2 for Ingram, 10.7 from Le'Veon Bell, 19.3 for Jack Doyle, only 4.5 for Michelle, 13 for Myers, and 1 for the New England defense. And for Lombardi, 21.5 from Mahomes. Beckham, who is talking about not even wanting to be in Cleveland next year, with 5.9. Metcalf with 11.5, 2.5 from Coleman, 7.1 from Jones. Andrews had 14, 4 from Cooks, Vinatieri 5, and Baltimore had 7. So Deebo Samuel, I guess, had a bench blunder, 14 points on the bench there. Kyle Rudolph, I haven't heard this guy in a couple years. He had 15 points, but yeah. I don't know. What do you say about this game? Really, is this hard to think about? I mean, look, Wakanda won. I think this is more. I mean, look, the Blues have been in like the top 4 conversation the entire time, but they've kind of been like a paper tiger. That
Yeah, I mean,
and this showed it.
They've been, in the top 4, but it's not a team you really fear based on their personnel.
I know. It just never has felt like that. Whereas Wakanda, I mean, look, Wakanda at the early end of the season, we were predicting them to like run away with this thing until all those injuries hit.
Yeah, and they got it back together.
Yeah.
New England's defense was amazing to begin the season, but now that they're playing real teams, their production has gone down.
Yep.
The Bell trade was actually, hate to say it, Geza, was actually helpful to them. Ingram, I mean, it's a tough matchup against San Francisco, but he's been good.
Yeah.
Cooper Kupp turning it on again.
That was actually the trade that didn't work out. Well, I mean,
yeah, that's true.
That's
true.
It was Cooper Kupp for
Saquon, so it actually did work out now in the long run because Saquon really hasn't been that good.
No, he's been terrible. I mean, I don't even know. It's just been back and forth through. Yeah, I don't know.
Wakanda also isn't a team that I'm really hoping that I play one of these 2 teams as opposed to the Whalers because I think there's a huge drop off.
Which means that you're rooting for Nick and Jamie, which I'm not
absolutely.
surprised.
I mean, even though I never root for Nick and Jamie, but this week I am.
I mean, be careful what you wish for. I never wish for teams to root for. I don't know.
Well, Nick and Jamie, I mean, I feel like they can have a garbage team and they'll still beat me. They're just my nemesis. I mean, it's in week 1, I thought I was the lock of the week, and I ended up losing, and they put up the craziest point total.
Yeah.
So.
Look, I never doubt any team in the playoffs. You never know what's going to happen. I mean, I've certainly suffered The Hagler's team that I played years ago was one of the worst assembled teams I've ever seen. So you never.
Yeah, I was actually looking at the previous year's teams, and I was looking at the Hagler's team that won in the finals, and I didn't know like probably 3/4 of the guys that were on that team.
Yeah, they're atrocious. So I mean,
Total garbage. How did they lose? How many points did they put up?
What in the final?
Like, yeah, in the final. Like, what was this?
119 to 115.
Wow, that's unbelievable. It's crazy.
And I had a pretty good team that year that was putting up points, and they just didn't.
Yeah.
I had the Elliott, or I had the Zerline banana peel. I had who else went down?
Crazy.
I mean, I didn't have the quarterback. I mean, like I played Nick Foles. He only got 9 points in the, who ends up going to win the MVP.
Yeah.
Glad to see him probably out of Jacksonville because fuck that guy. But anyway, no, look, Wakanda. I mean, the Blues are who we thought they are. You want to crown them. Anyway, but Wakanda, I feel like is I don't know. I think that they are the more dangerous of the two teams, only because look at what they've had to overcome to get to this point, and not only did they overcome all of those injuries and everything else that they went through, they ended up with a winning record. They ended up over 500, 7-6.
Yeah.
They're not the team that just squeaked in on points or whatever with a losing record. They got in. They got 5th place legitimately. So
yeah.
Yeah. They're a very resilient team, and they're not bad. I mean, they have a good running back core. If those wide receivers can get it going, I mean, look, Alshon Jeffrey with 28, 18 for Cup. Drew Brees had an off game with only 13 points.
Yeah.
This is not a team to. I mean,
no, it's not a team to take lightly. And New England plays, I think, Cincinnati when they're in the playoffs. So
yeah, so I mean, and they can get them 25 points or something ridiculous.
I know exactly.
Yeah, so Cincinnati in Week 15, that's pretty dangerous. I mean, is that a team that you really want to face? I don't know.
No, I'm rooting for the Blues and Nick and Jamie.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, but the Blues could put up some points. I mean, if you remember, these two teams played each other earlier in the season. This was actually, ironically, the first time that they played was the game where hockey lost everybody. That was the Wakanda injury game, and it was just a complete shootout.
Mm-hmm.
And then it looked like, and then Breeze went down, but hockey was still holding his own because the New England defense was scoring an insane amount of points. But then the Blues ended up with like 160 something that week. And they've just kind of been there ever since, but, winning games, I mean, they haven't been getting the points, but they've won ever since then. But this was, this matchup really is what started the downturn for hockey, and now maybe starts the incline for them. I don't know. We'll see. But they play each other next week. This is an interesting, matchup to have play 3 times because it's been kind of exciting.
I mean, I think Wakanda deserves Coach of the Year awards for all the trouble that they've gone through with the injuries. I mean, it's pretty impressive.
I think they're definitely in the conversation for that. I mean, because it's really difficult to overcome all of that and to manage that and figure out how to get enough wins. I mean, and to end up with a winning season on top of it. Like it would be one thing if they, if they were 6-7 and you'd go, then you'd go, okay, with points, you go, okay. They still managed it. I mean, they'd still get a lot of credit because it would be, to still overcome all of that. But, to actually end up with a winning record after that, it's like, wow,
it's quite impressive. Yeah. It's quite impressive. I mean, we've been lucky. We haven't had any injuries to our star players, so we haven't had to go through.
And the Blues had an injury to Mahomes. I mean, look, to be honest with you, Blues has just been sitting there the whole time. So I don't.
It's sailing along with a top 4 seed the whole year.
I know. Basically, that's where they've been. Just they parked their ass in the 4 seed and just sat there the entire time. So I mean,
flying under the radar.
Yeah, that's the other thing. They are completely flying under the radar. So they have the game against Wakanda. Then they get into the semifinals. It just takes a good week, and then the next thing you know, you're in the championship game. So they did what they had to do, and you can't. We'll see. We'll see.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see. Yeah.
All right. And then that moves us to Zamunda versus Nick and Jamie. Well, this wasn't much of a game, but this game had huge implications. So Nick and Jamie wins 119.88 to 70.60, rounding out Zamunda's season, rounding out their terrible season. They played James Conner with 0 points, yet they sat Darius Geis with 27.7. So last week they played Peterson and Geis, and it's like atrocious. And then this week they played Peterson, who got 15, but sat Geis, who got 27 for a guy who was injured or out. I mean, I don't know. Nicky baby. Whatever. I mean, 27 for Prescott on Thanksgiving. Watkins, Yayas with only 0. I mean, so many zeros sitting around. For Nick and Jamie, I mean, Tannehill came back down to earth. 25.8 from Galladay. Ridley with 17.1, 23.6 for Henry. So that, Henry, my God, although he's got a questionable tag. Jay Williams, only 3.5, but I think that's because, no, I don't know, whatever happened there, but Mack, I think, is coming back. Fells with 10 points, Rojoke with only 0.8, ouch. And then 8 from the kicker and 13 from the Pittsburgh defense. The Pittsburgh defense actually has been pretty damn good pickup.
Absolutely.
And they're good going into the playoffs. I mean, they're playing Arizona, Buffalo, and the Jets. So
didn't he pay a substantial amount of money for that Pittsburgh defense?
I feel like he didn't. I feel like we made fun of him for it because he did it like 2 weeks
in
advance.
Right.
And in fact, we were like, what is he doing? Picking up this defense, like when he was like on the verge of being eliminated, and we're like, he's picking up a defense for 2 weeks in advance.
Yeah, for like $25.
Yeah, and we're like, what the hell is going on? But I don't know. I guess there's a method to their
paid off.
Right,
yeah, it's absolutely paid off.
Yeah, to be able to hold on to them now. Yeah, I mean, what are you gonna say? These
the Tannehill Henry twofers. I mean, that's carried him recently. Yeah, and then Galladay has been pretty good recently as well. So. And Ridley, actually.
I mean, it's amazing. This team was left for dead. This team was being. This was in the Zamunda. They were one of the Three Musketeers. The Zamunda, Eugene, Nick and Jamie combo, and they went Milky Way on this. My God.
Yeah. It's crazy.
I mean, for them to be in the playoffs is
one of the Three Musketeers made the playoffs. That's.
Yes.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
I mean, what can you say? They were just completely. I mean, it's astounding that they're in the playoffs. And this is the second time they made the playoffs at 6 and 7, by the way. So I don't know. I guess you could never count Nick and Jamie out.
Yeah, don't remind me.
Yeah, well. For Zamunda, I mean, what do you say about Zamunda this season? I mean, he started out with so many good running backs. He started out with, I mean, who were his running backs to start? I think it was like Chubb. Carryon Johnson, who ended up going down with an injury after a trade. He ends up with Connor, who's injured the whole time. He had somebody else who he traded away. Who was it? I know he traded away his third running back, too.
He had Carryon Johnson, Nick Chubb, Kamara.
Oh, Kamara. He still has him. Okay. But he's underwhelmed. Yeah, I mean, what do you say about Nicky?
He had Gronkowski for the longest time.
I mean, he was doing deep sleepers. Like, I just don't know. It's the same thing. He lets his team get pillaged every year, and then he he just makes these moves that you just go like this will pay. Maybe I would say this, Nick, just get this roster now. It'll probably be good in 3 years. You just have to wait for it to bloom. If this was a keeper league, although he'd trade him away right when they were about to get good. He's like, I don't know what obscure sports quarterly he's reading, but you know, he gets these guys. I don't know, ready to be good a couple years from now, but this season it just wasn't. It wasn't meant to be.
Cortland Sutton was also pretty good, and he gave him away as well.
I know, and he's the only one who saw Cortland Sutton.
I know. No one even thought of him being good.
This is what I'm saying. He's like a farmer who plants the seed, and it's just But by the time that it blooms, everybody knows about him. And in 2 seasons when he'll be good. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, he had, but he's had some pivotal games. He made, he beat me. What was the other?
Yeah, he was my .12.
Yeah, that would have changed everything around.
Victory.
Yeah. But he was. I mean, he is where he should be. I mean, 1309. I mean, nobody's even in the 1300s in terms of points. The next closest, I mean, in terms of points is what do you call it? It is the Monkeys with 1464. So he was about 153 points from the from the next closest. And if you want to get to the top, I mean, he was 500 points less. I mean,
yeah, it's a lot.
He just was not putting up the points this season. So,
yeah.
All right. That brings us to one final game.
Wow. The battle for first place.
Oh, yeah. What happened there?
So, I actually, was pretty lucky in terms of not getting crazy good performances from Lamar and McCaffrey. I would take 24 and 17 in a heartbeat. But fucking Devontae Parker went absolutely bonkers against an Eagles secondary who is just atrocious.
I knew this.
I mean, it was a good play, but, 34 points, come on.
Well, so...
And,
go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Well,
I was just going to say, after the Thanksgiving game, so I landed, and I saw that Beasley had 23 points.
Mm-hmm.
And I was kind of like, man, Beasley. And Geese, you had told me, like, Beasley, you said this on the broadcast, Beasley's going to have a revenge game. And I was like, yeah, but like, who do I sit? And I think, Geese, didn't you say Parker is who you'd sit or something?
I don't know who I picked, but I definitely said Beasley was the play.
Right, and I just felt like, Westbrook was playing Tampa Bay. How do you sit him there? Moore, he's been fantastic. He's playing Washington, and then Parker versus Philadelphia in that terrible secondary. So it's just like I couldn't do it. So even though I thought Beasley was going to have a good game, I just thought that these other ones were going to. Now he did outplay those other two guys, or he certainly did.
Well, you still would have won if you started Beasley instead of Parker. It's only a difference of 11 points.
Yeah, I know. But but you did. You just say it, and it's true. All season you've been saying nothing except for those two players.
Yeah, and how ironic it is that the other guys, like one of the other guys, is the one that tortures me.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Well, I think I don't think Devontae Parker is that great. It's just a favorable matchup.
He's been pretty good. In fact, I actually saw a tweet, by the way, from Devontae Parker has scored more than any since week 6. The only wide receiver with more fantasy points than Devontae Parker and Michael Thomas, DeAndre Hopkins, and Mike Evans.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Pretty good.
Yeah, it's not bad.
I mean, I had a terrific performance from Rodgers.
You did against the
4
Giants.
touchdowns in the snow. I mean, for him to outscore Lamar by 12 points, I would take that.
Definitely.
I kind of made a mistake with. I mean, it was good starting Gurley, but I should have started Kareem Hunt instead of Nick Chubb. But that's always a tough call to make.
You're in that. You're stuck in that Godwin Evans problem.
I am really hoping someone gets hurt next week.
I know you're always
one of those. I mean, please, just one of you, just sprain an ankle for God's sake.
Especially on the bye week.
Yeah.
No, I mean, this is a problem.
I've never seen coaches root for injuries on their own team. I mean, that has to be a first. Did you just root for injuries on your own team?
Yes. Just one of
that, I have to say, is the first in all of my fantasy football. A coach rooting for injuries on his own team. Like, what the fuck is this?
What does that do for morale over there in the finals?
This is a man in second place, and he's rooting for injuries on his own team. Wow.
Yeah. Okay, let's just leave it at that. Whatever. All right, that's what's up with my team. I'm just rooting for one of those 2 running backs to get hurt. So.
God, and then you ended up picking up Zane Gonzalez. So I don't know what happened. This was, I kept getting notifications, like those roster things that said that, like 25,000, 40,000, 50,000 are dropping coup, and I'm like, what is going on? And then I saw Zane Gonzalez sitting there, and I was going to pick him up, but because I think hockey dropped him for the bye, and then forgot to pick him back up, and you ended up getting him, and I'm like, damn it. And then, but I'm like scouring the internet at that point, just figuring out why is everybody dropping him. Like, did he get injured? Did he get cut? What's going on? And then I looked up on the internet. I couldn't find anything. And then eventually, like a day and a half later, I see people posting the same, like the same question, like, why is everybody dropping this guy? I can't find anything. And I think people just kept dropping him because they were getting the notification that people were dropping him, which just led to more drops. It ended up like 90,000 drops or something in that day. And then, so then I get on the plane. I didn't end up having Wi-Fi. Then I land for my connection, and I and I see that he had no points in the game. Had already, and I was like, "What the hell is going on? Did he not play? Did I miss it? Like, what is going on?" And I messaged you guys. I messaged like, "Hi." I'm like desperate because it was halfway through the game, and it was like 7 to whatever.
He just missed an extra point.
Yeah, he just missed an extra point. I'm like, oh. And I was kind of like, I was like, thank God, at least he's playing. I would have felt awful had he not been playing.
Yeah, you must have thought he got exiled back to North Korea or something.
That's what I thought. I was like, what is going on? And then when he scored like 4 towards the half or something, and I was like, okay, this is fine. I mean, he missed another field goal. I don't know.
8 points. I mean, fucking Kyler Murray couldn't even get it into field goal range. He would throw a pick, when he was on his own 10 every time. I mean, it was a disgrace.
And then,
so,
Gonzalez just did not do any. I mean, he got the 1 extra point. I guess that's it. And then Green Bay. Ironically, Green Bay was the defense that I had 2 weeks ago, which I dropped because I was worried about what the Hagglers were going to do because they had that good first half. So I dropped them because they were playing San Francisco later on in the game. And then you end up getting them because of that. And I had Jacksonville.
Yeah, 10 points isn't bad.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But,
I mean, 130 points. I mean, it's not a bad week. It's you just did better. I mean, what can I say? It was it's your fucking other guys that, not your 2 stars that actually got you the win. But it's going to be different in week 16 if we play again.
Yeah, my 2 stars will also score. I love.
Yeah, but
I love,
not the
by
other
the way-
guys.
By the way, yeah, they'll all score. Don't worry, they do. But the ironic thing is, I love how everybody's like, "Oh, McCaffrey had a terrible game." He still ended up with 17.2 points.
I
Lamar
know.
Jackson in a bad game got 24.3.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Right. I was actually surprised how Hopkins did. I mean, he had a passing touchdown,
Oh, really?
but I didn't expect him to get 17 points against New England.
Yeah, I didn't either. I
So it's a decent. I mean, he's been good, Hopkins.
yeah.
He gets his points every week. And week 16 he would play Tampa Bay. So
I know Will Fuller replaces Tampa Bay as well, which is why we'll probably, if that's to be the match. So either way, I mean, like if Whalers makes it, if you make it, or if I make it, I mean, he'll have Deshaun Watson throwing against Tampa Bay. You'll have DeAndre Hopkins playing against Tampa Bay, and I'll have Will Fuller against Tampa Bay. So we've all kind of got that Houston wide receiver that'll be in that game. So
yeah. Then week 15 I have Cleveland is playing Arizona. I have so many freaking Browns. So we'll see. We'll see. I mean,
we got to do the analysis for the wild card week. But anyway, the best team won. All right.
All right. You're going to have to eat humble pie for that in 2 weeks, so that's okay.
That's possible, whatever. But the interesting thing is, so, I mean, throughout the season, the 1603ers were never in first place up until the last week of the season. We finally we climbed that mountain, but I mean, this really is not even. This doesn't even have to do with this game. This has to do with that third quarter with Tennessee and Tannehill and.
True. That's
Henry,
true. That's where I lost it, not yesterday.
Absolutely.
That third quarter, 100%. And but honestly, you scored the most points, so it's not like you don't deserve it to be in first place.
Oh, that's
and
sweet.
and having the bye, that's the most important thing going into the playoffs. Regardless if I have to play the Whalers,
Yeah.
Heck, if I win the league, I should play the strongest teams. I should beat the strongest teams.
I would rather just beat the weakest ones.
Or have the strongest path. That being said, I am rooting for the weaker teams to win, but if it has to be that way, then it will. So we'll see.
All right, so that wraps it up for the regular season. We're gonna take a quick break and go off the playoff matchups. So stay tuned. We'll be right back right after this. We could go over the final standings. So, yeah, the 1603ers end up in first. The Finest end up in second. The Whalers end up in third. All three of those teams with 10-3 records. So, came down to the points. Are you making nachos again? What's happening?
No, I'm not. I'm just
So then, all three teams ended up with 10-3 records. It ended up with points between them. So I think that's, you like to see that kind of end up that way. The Blues end up in fourth place. We knew that they were going to be at least in fourth place the entire time. They, on the other hand, had less points than a lot of teams, but they had the record going forward. They ended up with the 10-4. I mean the 9-4. With that loss to Wakanda, solidifying that fourth spot. Wakanda ends up at 7-6. So there's a huge drop off to the 10-3s. And then the 6-7s, Nick and Jamie and Tillett Trey. But Nick and Jamie by virtue of points, 1539.06 to 15.08.48. makes the difference, bringing Nick and Jamie into the playoffs again. The Hagglers, the only 5-8 team this year, did have more points than the 4, 5, 6, 7 teams. Yeah, but they're in 8th, alas. Right below them is the Lightning Rods at 4-9. Dave's Secret Crush at 4-9. Both of whom had more points than everybody up to 4th. The Monkeys with a 4-9 record and 14.64 points, and Zamunda all the way down there at 13.09. So that finishes the season for that. Time to go look at these matchups for next week. I mean, if anybody cares, the consolation matchups are Memphis Monkeys versus Dave's Secret Crush, Zamunda versus the Lightning Rods, and the Hagglers until Trey have the bye. Anybody want to make any predictions on this or even give a shit? I mean, we don't.
No.
Nobody gives a shit about the con. Let's move on.
I say Dave's Secret Crush and Lightning Rods. Okay, moving on. So the 1603ers and the Finals have the bye. And then we get to the 2 wild card games. Let's start with the rematch of last week's game. The Blues versus the Wakanda Panthers. The projection right now is 119.72 to 118.32 in favor of Wakanda. I mean, Breeze has a matchup against San Francisco. Cup has one versus Seattle. Although, to be fair, the last time these two teams met, I think, was the last time where those Rams wide receivers just went completely off. I mean, like Cooper Kupp that game, he had 26 points that game, and then he pretty much fell off a cliff after that for most of the time. Jeffrey versus the Giants on Monday night. Ingram at Baltimore. Le'Veon Bell versus Miami. Doyle at Tampa Bay. Sony Michel versus Kansas City. I mean, these matchups for Wakanda look pretty good. Mahomes is playing New England. So both these quarterbacks have tough matchups. And it's at New England. At least Breeze is versus San Francisco, so it'll be in the dome there. Metcalf at the Rams. Deebo Samuel's at New Orleans. So he's playing, in Coleman at New Orleans. He's definitely trying to get those New Orleans points there. Aaron Jones versus Washington. That's actually pretty good. Andrews at Buffalo. That might be tough. I don't know. Keenan Allen at Jacksonville. What's been happening with that guy? He's actually been getting a lot of points lately. And then the Baltimore at Buffalo. So you already predicted that the Blues were going to win this. Do you stand by that in looking at this?
Both quarterbacks, really tough matchups. I like the Wakanda Panthers receivers matchups way better.
Yeah. And Bell's playing Miami.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. And Ingram, I mean, the Ravens offense, they torch everyone. So, with that play action fake, I mean, Ingram can be very potent too.
Yeah, and who knows?
Regardless of the matchup.
And it's in Buffalo. I mean, I don't know what the weather's going to be like, but I mean, that would lend itself to running.
Yeah. To be honest with you, I like Wakanda in this matchup. Also, I think Wakanda has been on the upswing, and the Blues have been in the slump despite staying in 4th place the whole year. So,
one loss is a slump.
I guess it seems like they've been in the slump, but they've just been staying in that 4 position the whole year. So
I mean, we it just feels like they have been, but no, they're 10. I mean, they were 9-4. They were 10 and what do you call it? They almost were 10-3.
9-3, yeah.
I mean, they only had 3 losses prior to that, and I don't even know when they came. Who did they lose to?
Yeah, I mean, I'm rooting for the Blues. I think Wakanda has a more dangerous team, but I have to go with Wakanda based on the matchups this week.
I don't honestly, I mean, I think both these teams have potential to be dangerous. It's interesting that he's sitting Odell Beckham, but I guess Beckham's not going to play. I mean, yeah, look. I am picking Wakanda in this game. I think that they're going to win, but I mean, they're 1-1 in the matchup this year.
It's close. It's close.
And I don't know. The Blues have found a way to just stick around, so I don't know what to say. But I am picking Wakanda. Geese?
I don't know if I could pick Wakanda. Being as that was one of the teams that, I in the log jam that just made their way out of the jam and was a splinter. I have to go with the Blues, actually. But can I go with the Blues because they're such crybabies in the auction? I don't know. I don't want either of these teams to win, actually.
It's not a want. It's a think.
Yeah, I don't know. No, I don't know. I really don't know. I don't care.
And then again, Aaron Jones against Washington is an excellent matchup. And Keenan Allen against Jacksonville. I mean, if Phillip Rivers can deliver a pass to him, it's a good matchup. So I don't know. It's really close.
I guess Wakanda.
Well, who I'm rooting for in this game depends on the result of the other game.
I mean, why?
Well, yeah, that's true.
The other game will determine who you play. I mean, this game actually
Right.
has nothing to do with who you'll play. I mean, other than you'll play, other than you could play one of the teams from this.
That's true. So, yeah, if the Whalers win, I'm playing them regardless. So,
Yes. If the Whalers win, you will play the Whalers. If the Whalers lose, you will play the winner of this game.
Right. I mean, yeah.
As far as care, I don't care. I don't care. I don't root for either team, and I don't root against either team. I think they both have the potential to do good things in any given week, and any team scares me. So I think, I don't know.
I mean, are you rooting for the Whalers, or because you would rather play one of these teams in the final than?
I mean, on paper, I'm rooting for the Whalers, certainly. But I'm very wary of rooting for teams in the playoffs, rooting for your opponent in the playoffs, because lo and behold, you root for them, and then the next thing you know, they go off the week after.
Yeah, they go off for 170 points.
And you're like, oh my God, why couldn't I have played the other one? And then your season is done. So I don't root for any teams. But yes, on paper, it would be, having the Whalers have to, have to fight the Whalers would definitely be much more of a death battle matchup, I guess. But then again, if the Whalers gets eliminated, that's a huge, no pun intended, whale eliminated from the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly. It's one kind of team you have to worry, one less team you have to worry about.
So, I mean,
it really has a threat to win. Yeah.
So what do you say? I mean,
yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, fantasy football's all, I mean, this is a booger analysis. Fantasy football's all about survive in advance. It's not like you're going to be fatigued from next week, unless you have injuries.
But, I mean, that's true.
But, so each week is kind of independent. I am, yeah.
So, yeah.
I'm not denying that, but...
Yeah, on your own team, mind you.
I mean, unless you have, injuries, then each week is an independent event.
Yeah.
I mean, if you get what you want, you'll knock yourself out of the playoffs with injuries.
Don't get me wrong. I'm just rooting for injuries between those two Cleveland running backs. Let me specify.
Wouldn't that be awesome? You ever watch that movie? I think it's Bedazzled with like Brendan Fraser and Elizabeth Hurley, and she plays the devil who will grant him his 3 wishes, but she takes the literal meaning of his wishes.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, if you get your wish, then they'll both be injured. Both have ankle injuries.
Okay, that would not be good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm picking the Panthers, but we'll see if the Blues pull this out. Not even pull it out if the Blues win. And I think a win here would prove a lot of things for the Blues. I mean, and for Wakanda, I feel like they've proved a lot already just by getting to this point. But we'll, and another, a semifinal appearance will be, quite something for them, given how their season went. So,
I don't know. This is a man who absolutely threw a temper tantrum in the auction, gave away Melvin Gordon to the Whalers, conveniently dropped Danny Dimes to the Whalers. I mean, there's been so much, which, by the way, none of this stuff has even been brought up again. Questionable activity by this team, and yet they've been in 4th place the entire time. I have to actually root for Wakanda. I've seen enough. I've seen enough.
The
So
Danny
I'm gonna
Dimes
have
thing,
to go.
he was in Colombia for that. I mean, that's actually not anything. That was just complete mockery. But the other ones are legit.
Uh-huh.
the whining over Odell. Well, ironically, you won't have Odell. I don't know. And what was the other one? So the Odell
The
whining.
accusations of insider trading.
Oh yeah, in the
I mean, the
beginning of the
list
season.
goes on and on and on. I've seen enough of the St. Louis Blues. I want them.
Yeah, I mean that's true.
Enough.
I gotta say, there's some part of me that certainly admires the Hagglers being able to just speak freely, because I feel at this point I don't want to give anybody bulletin board material or anything else, and there's just, I mean, I think by the championship week it'll be such a burden lifted from your shoulders. Like right now it probably stings, but the ability to just speak freely, just like fuck this guy, it must be nice.
I've seen enough.
All right. Well, let's move on to the other championship game. Actually, we should save this one. Well, I don't know. So the projection right now is 133.33 for the Whalers against a prediction of destiny for Nick and Jamie. 114.83. Everything here says that the Whalers should absolutely win this game. I don't know. Let's see. Deshaun Watson versus Denver. Michael Thomas versus San Francisco. So that's kind of a tough matchup there. Sterling Shepard at Philadelphia. And we've seen what that Eagles secondary is like. So good matchup for him there. Melvin Gordon at Jacksonville. Singletary is playing versus Baltimore. Ertz versus the Giants. Tyler Lockett he still has in there at the Rams. Tucker at Buffalo. And the Rams versus Seattle. I'd put Mixon back in instead of Lockett. But other than that, decent matchups. For Nick and Jamie, Tannehill at Oakland, that's a good matchup. Galladay at Minnesota. Ridley versus Carolina. Derrick Henry at Oakland. That's a good matchup there. And that's really all you need when you're them. Devonta Freeman, is he finally coming back versus Carolina? Fells versus Denver. T.Y. Hilton versus Tampa Bay. He's still got the questionable tag, and it says he's uncertain he'll be back this year. So that doesn't look promising. I guess he's keeping him in there. I mean, that would be the player to play, a receiver against Tampa Bay. But I don't know. Pittsburgh at Arizona, which is good, and then the Tampa Bay defense. And who would they play if they don't have him? I mean, Mack is still questionable. They picked up Higbee, I think, today. Which actually is not a bad play. I mean, what did Higbee do against Seattle the first time? Well, 7.7, which is not bad for a tight end. I mean, look, everything says that the Whalers should win this game going away. Is that going to happen? Gentlemen,
the new team of destiny.
is it going to happen? Is Nick and Jamie going to find a way to pull this one out?
Yes.
How?
They are already the new team of destiny. They had the magical third quarter against Manny. This is the exact blueprint to what the Hagglers did. Okay, then they went through the third place team. They went through the second place team, and they went. Isn't that what Nick and Jamie would basically almost have to do, right?
Yeah, except they'd have to go 3, 1, 2.
Doesn't matter what the order is; they're going to do it.
Any idea how?
Banana peels, magical third quarters. I don't know. I cannot root against a team of destiny, being that I was one.
Mm-hmm.
I just cannot. It would just be sacrilege. Nick and Jamie give me hope in humanity. Because my team is pure shit. Nick and Jamie are the one shining glimmer of hope in this cesspool of a world I'm living in right now. Go Nick and Jamie. I want you to win it all. Please, for God's sakes, give me some measure of glory. Reason to get out of bed in the morning. Going to Manny every day at work. While he has the bye. Trash talking his way through the bye week.
Well, you have a bye too. Nobody on this podcast is playing this week.
No, of course not.
There's a consolation bye.
Nick and Jamie, please represent downtrodden.
A champion of the people.
Yes, a true champion of the people, Nick and Jamie. Nick and Jamie's Robin Hood.
Yes, we'll see if they'll be champions of the league. But yes, champion of the... Yes, they could steal from the rich and give to themselves, to the poorest. Manny...
A team that, quite frankly, has no business being in the playoffs.
Manny? Are you going with Destiny or are you going with the Whalers? Manny, are you even there?
Of course, he probably fell asleep again.
He's making his nachos while on mute. Well, we know. I mean, I could tell you what he's going to say. He's rooting. He's rooting for Nick and Jamie. Well, I don't know. I actually. Does he root to keep his kryptonite in the playoffs, just sitting there, or does he root for a matchup with the Whalers next week? Because let me tell you something. If it's Whalers versus Manny, which I am predicting it will be, the trash talking will be epic. These two teams do not like each other.
It's Whalers versus Whalers Jr.
I mean, it's more Eugene Jr. than Whalers. I mean, Whalers is so... I mean, it was Whalers... Whalers was maybe 20 years ago. But, I mean, Whalers now is more... I don't know. He's a more stately... You know. I don't know. He's like Apollo. Apollo Creed. He was that in his youth. Now he's over on your side, kind of. Which is ironic because he used to be dubbed Drago. I don't know.
Well, the trash talk. Speaking of something else I've had enough of, is the Friedman trash talk.
So then you would like... So, well, let's just get your rooting interest since you don't give a shit. So what you would like to see happen is you would like to see Nick and Jamie beat the Whalers.
And then the garbage barge sails into Hackettstown one last time and knocks them out.
Well, are you in the final, or because that would just set up a matchup between Wakanda, because you want Wakanda, and you've had enough of the Blues, according to yourself.
There's a lot. I've had enough of a lot of stuff.
So you would like Wakanda to sail into to Hackettstown and take him out there, or would you like the garbage?
No, I want him to win that.
You want Wakanda to win.
Yeah.
Knock him out, and then are you rooting for a Nick and Jamie Wakanda final, which would be quite something?
That would be almost impossible. I've never seen two teams of Destiny face each other in the finals.
I mean, that's really what it would be. I mean, I don't know.
Guaranteed second champion.
Yeah, that would be the most ironic thing. Yeah, yeah. Like, out of all these scenarios, I mean, like, they're the two champions are the ones that are at the bottom, but they won seasons 1 and 2. Are they going to make a comeback and be the ones to lift the man?
Guaranteed second championship between somebody.
Yeah.
Dr. Hockey has been absent at the wheel for all of his obligations in life. He does not deserve the glory of a championship in fantasy football. I mean, for people who have worked so hard and suffered so much week in, week out, for a guy who's just literally non-existent. He's not even asleep at the wheel. He's not even on the ship. For him to win a championship is fucking criminal. To be rewarded for such gross negligence and irresponsible behavior on so many different levels, which are non-fantasy football related, to be rewarded with a champion. It's time for me to sound off on these individuals. It would be a travesty of justice, pun intended, as Dr. Hockey is a lawyer, to have him win it all after demonstrating such gross negligence in life on several key matters. No, I'm not rooting for Wakanda. No way.
Well, next week?
Not any week. But I think this is the problem. I guess for this week he's okay. He gets a reprieve this week. He gets a free pass. Just beat the Blues because I'm tired of their nonsense. Put the insider trading Odell Beckham debacle to bed. All right, and then he will be taken out in the next round, I guess.
By Manny?
No. Let him win. Let him win. So then that would shut up the other trash-talking freedman who's rooting for injuries on his own team. Now, I've never seen so much nonsense from a team before. Where my record speaks to itself. So I'm rooting for injuries on my own team? No, you're not winning anything. I want him to be beat by Wakanda, and then finally, at the mountaintop, let him be taken down by Nick and Jamie, who actually deserve, out of all of these teams, besides yourself, who've played in the league for how many years now? What is this, your 25th season?
Well, it's been 22 years since the center has started, so yeah, 22 years. My Ray Bork year. Ray Bork won it.
I wouldn't mind watching you win. I mean, you're the Emperor Palpatine, and if I rooted for you, of course Lombardi would get on the line. Oh, sure, he's rooting for his crony. Which would spark more Eugene comments and crooked commissioner and all. So, whatever. I can't even root for you legally. Legally, I have to refrain from rooting for Dave Arbakin, lest there be accusations. Accusations of wrongdoing from rooting from your fellow podcast member. Let heavens forbid I root for Dave Arbakin. There has to be something crooked going on here.
We don't know what, but we know it's crooked.
We know it's crooked. You have access to the scores beforehand, before each game, or something ridiculous.
Yeah,
I would have finished.
That was the accusation that was hurled at us by Lombardi.
Right, but this time I would have known the scores ahead of time. How these players are gonna. I wouldn't have been 5-8 had I known how each player was gonna perform. But that's neither here nor there, as usual. So. Anyway, what was your original question? Who am I rooting for in this matchup? Nick and Jamie.
Well, who do you think is going to win, though?
Nick and Jamie. Nick and Jamie's going to win. They're a team of destiny. I do not root against Team of Destiny. It's not a good idea.
Right. Well, I mean, we clearly know who you're rooting for now. You've made it abundantly clear. You're rooting for Nick and Jamie all the way.
Of course, yeah.
I guess Friedman is still gone.
Friedman is he fell asleep again.
Yeah, well, you know.
After he's done trash talking and talking himself up, he falls asleep.
All right. Well, then we could end it there. Yeah, I mean, I have to pick the Whalers here. Come on. I mean, but I would not be surprised if, you know, I mean, based on my prediction.
You do that in there because you don't want to do that to the football gods, Harbacken.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the one who dubbed them the team of destiny. I would not be surprised if they win. Come on.
All right.
This team finds a way to win.
Uh-huh.
A team that wants to win plays like this is the inverse of what I used to say about, which is what you have now adopted for your life. A team that wants to win does not play like this. Well, a team that wants to win plays like this. So, yeah, I don't know. We shall see. But, I mean, on paper, certainly the Whalers has been, you know, fantastic this season. He's 10-3.
Yeah, we're not taking anything away from the Whalers. He's been outstanding.
And he's kind of just been hovering. I mean, he was in first place up until like that week 6 win, right? Am I correct about that? I mean, so Nick and Jamie were first the first week of the season, which would be the extra irony if they finished in the first week of the season they were in first place, and at the end of the season they were in first. But whatever, which just adds to the destiny myth. But I mean, I think since then, I think week 2 on, and I could be wrong about that, but I think the Whalers was pretty much in first up until like week 6 when Manny took it over. But they've just kind of been sitting there, like, just really good all season long. And they were Yahoo's prediction for being the best team in the league. And we kind of mocked that in the beginning, but it kind of came true. Close to, you know, like he's been up there the whole time. So I don't know. It would be shocking if he were to lose in the first week of the season, but you don't know. No. All right. So that's it. Anything else you want to add or detract?
No. Another skating review coming up next week.
Oh, I look forward to that. See, this. I mean, yeah. I mean, it's just because the burden's going to be lifted. You know, as you get further and further away from the season, now you can just have an honest assessment of it. You will just be ready to let loose. And another week of listening to Manny Friedman.
Ugh.
Well, so I guess that's it. Until next week, good luck, everybody.
Oh, yeah. Good luck, everyone.
All right.